I had you muted. Oh, that's not me. That's not muted.
It says I'm backstage. Hold on with me real quick until we.
I need to. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I can't talk to him though, can I?
Hello.
Hey, we're here. We need to talk to the mayor.
Sorry, I'm a little late.
It's okay.
How you doing, Mayor?
How you
Hey,
doing?
Derrick. Very sorry I'm a little late.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We're gonna get you squared away. Just follow my lead. Greetings. I am Nicole Everett, the host of Conversations with Nicole, and welcome to Bridging the Gap, a community discussion. And my co-host tonight is attorney Derrick McBurrows.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome.
So, Derrick, you are the president of Tallahassee Barristers and have organized this talk tonight. So, tell the folks what brought this about.
Well, I'm an attorney, as stated, and I'm also the president of Tallahassee Barristers. And a part of our initiative is to practice and promote improvements in the administration of law in our community. So that's the point of this. I've been watching. We've all been affected to some degree by the factions that have been taking place nationally across the country. And I want to do what we can do to promote, unity and humanity here. And that's the purpose of today's discussion. So welcome.
Yes. So we have 3 illustrious Tallahassee leaders here with us tonight. So we will start out with our mayor, John Dailey.
Hey, Nicole. Hey, Derrick.
How you doing, Mayor?
Doing great. Doing great. How are y'all doing?
Doing well, doing well. So, Mayor, you were elected to the seat of mayor in 2018, although no stranger to local politics. Just tell the folks about who you are, not what you do, but who is John Dailey?
Well, I am a husband. I am a father. I am someone who loves Tallahassee, who grew up in Tallahassee, and is dedicated to serving Tallahassee. And this is a great community with great people, and it's an honor and a privilege to serve as the mayor.
All right. Thank you. Up next, we want to introduce Sheriff Walt McNeil. Sheriff McNeil was elected in 2016. Sheriff, welcome.
And he's muted.
Unmute you.
Good to see you all again, Mayor. Good to see you, sir. Nicole, Derrick.
Good to see you. Now, Sheriff, is it my camera or do I see a little mustache growing right there, my man?
Well, it's that, that mask time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on under that mask that people don't know about.
Hey, you're looking good, man. You're looking good, Sheriff. You're looking good.
As long as my wife is okay with it, I'm good.
That's right. That's right.
Indeed. So, Sheriff, I'm going to ask you the same thing, not what you do, but who is Walt McNeil?
Well, I'm the son of Amos and Pearl McNeil, and one of 7 children, born in Mississippi, went to the University of Southern Mississippi, came to Tallahassee to become a police officer, and dedicated my life to serving this community. My wife and I, we have 3 kids. They're all adults, and they too are products of Leon County, Tallahassee, and just glad to be a part of this tonight and to hear what citizens have to say, because it's through citizen engagement that we in leadership positions get an idea of what direction we should try to put our forces and our efforts in. So I'm happy to be a part of this discussion tonight.
All right. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Chief Lawrence Revell, who it's been just a little over a year now that you were sworn in, right?
Absolutely. And hello to everyone, Nicole, Derrick, Mayor, Sheriff. Good to see all of you.
All right.
Great.
Yes. Thank you.
Chief, you and Derrick have the same backdrop, I noticed.
That's right. Yeah. Only the best. Only the best.
We're going to have fun tonight.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
All right. So, Chief, tell us, who is Lawrence Revell? Not what you do, but who are you?
I appreciate that. I never like following the mayor or the sheriff because they're such good public speakers. But, first and foremost, I'm a Christian. That is who I am first and foremost. But I am also a husband of a lovely, beautiful bride, Kimberly, the father of 5 children, 2 of which are grown, and the triplets, which are still with us and are 14. And I too am a product of Tallahassee, born and raised here. I grew up here. My dad worked for the sheriff's department for 28 years, retired a captain, So I come from a long line of law enforcement family, and just like the mayor said, I love serving this community.
Thank you so much. So we have some video presentations that we're going to hear from, but first we want to hear from the mayor, specifically about how we can bridge the gap, a solution-oriented approach, and what the city of Tallahassee specifically is doing to do that. So Mayor Dailey.
Well, I appreciate that. And again, let me start by saying, Nicole and Derrick, how much I really appreciate your hosting this virtual forum. And it's always a pleasure to join the sheriff and the police chief, two fine gentlemen who I call dear friends. And they work very well, and they work very well together, and they work very hard for this community, and they're both leaders in their own right. Let me shape my remarks for this evening. And of course, we'll answer any and all questions that come up and see where the conversation goes. But for me, it really goes back to what I think is the fundamental responsibility of the mayor of Tallahassee, which is health, safety, and welfare. And I want to kind of use that as the framework for my remarks. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak before we watch the videos. First and foremost, when we talk about health, we can't fully talk about a healthy community without adequately addressing mental health services and mental health issues, and in particular, how we respond as a community to the mental health issues. That's one of the reasons that last year I called for, and my colleagues joined me, and the city is launching a new mental health crisis response unit where we can engage in those nonviolent mental health calls in our community through a law enforcement perspective. And Chief Revell has been instrumental in helping us put this together. The sheriff is fully supportive as well, because we work so well together in this community. We have created a pilot program in partnership with the Appalachia Center, which is the mental health hospital here in our community. Full disclosure, I sit on the board of directors and have for quite some time, and served as the chair of that organization. And I think the world of it. Mental health issues are issues that are very near and dear to my heart, much like everyone else in this community. We've had mental health in our family. We are related to people with mental health issues. And we have friends that deal with mental health issues every day. I think everyone can speak to that point as well. But in particular to our pilot program that we've launched, it's called the Tallahassee Emergency Assessment Mobile Unit, the team. And it will consist of a 3-person team that will include a non-sworn officer that is a mental health trained professional, a licensed mental health professional. We'll have an EMT or a paramedic, and of course, a law enforcement officer who is trained in crisis intervention as well. And the goal of the team is to be able to respond to those situations in our community when truly we need a mental health response and not just a law enforcement response. This isn't a new model. Many communities across the United States have implemented similar models. And in fact, we've done some great work in Tallahassee along these lines as well. However, I do think that the team will take mental health response to the next level. And it's important that we provide this if we're truly going to be that 21st century, continue the conversations along mental health and how it impacts us. And I think that we can all agree that 2020 has been a very difficult year for each and every one of us. That's kind of brought the mental health issues to the forefront. Number 2, safety. As we know, last year was a traumatic year across the country and across the world, and here in Tallahassee, with what we saw, with citizens being frustrated with what they saw with certain responses across the country. And if you remember last year, I called for an audit of our use of force policy at the Tallahassee Police Department, had many conversations with the chief prior to, and I certainly appreciate Chief Revell's partnership, if you will, moving forward. He believes, just like I do, that we want to continue to be one of the best police departments in the nation and set an example for other departments. And let me be very clear, because we call for an audit of the use of force policy, I do not think in any shape or form that Chief Revell or the fine men and women of the police department are doing anything wrong. But I believe in the spirit of transparency and in the spirit of always trying to be the best that you possibly can. It is healthy to continuously review your policies and procedures so that you can set the example. And in fact, I'm very proud of Tallahassee Police Department. And Sheriff, you served as chief of police for many, many years in Tallahassee as well, and helped set the example. And you continue to set the example at the Sheriff's Department as well. You too know, as well as I do, and I'd love to share, many other agencies across the country actually contact TPD on how we move forward and how we do things. And I remember the first call that I placed to the chief in regards to our use of force policy. And one of the first things that he told me was, John, these horrific incidences, whether it was the death of George Floyd or some of the other incidences that we've seen, we have not implemented here in Tallahassee. We got rid of those policies and procedures many years ago, which makes me that much more proud of the police department. But nonetheless, we all strive to be the best that we possibly can and to be that model agency in police department. And finally, welfare. So if you remember back in December, I launched a new campaign, All Human Rights Are Local. And I partnered up with Mark Schlackman, who is the director at the Center for the Advancement of Human Rights at Florida State University. It's interesting, Nicole, Derrick, when we think of human rights, usually we're thinking about some other part of the world and watching what's going on in another country. We might think of it on a national level, but I'm a true believer that all of these difficult conversations and these issues that have been brought up during 2020, these are all human rights issues. These are issues that we are dealing with right here in our backyard. And so as mayor, I think it's important that I keep these issues front and center of our community. We continue to have these conversations, much like the conversation that we're having this evening. And I look forward to moving forward and not only carrying on the conversation, but to see what great ideas we can come out of these community conversations and how those ideas can turn into great public policy to truly move Tallahassee forward. So, in conclusion, I understand that we all have a role to play in Tallahassee, wherever we are in Tallahassee. Specifically for me, as the mayor, I understand that I do play a role, a very large role in bridging the gap, specifically for our conversation tonight between the community and our law enforcement community, to make sure that people have that level of trust, they believe in the government, they believe in the great men and women of law enforcement, so that we can truly move forward. I'm dedicated to doing my part. I'm dedicated to working each and every day with the citizens of Tallahassee and with the law enforcement community, because I'm proud of Tallahassee, and I'm certainly proud to be the mayor of Tallahassee. So with that, let me just wrap up my comments. I know that you've got some great videos to show as well. I look forward to the conversation and any and all questions that we get this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So as the mayor stated, he looks forward to the conversation. So this is an interactive live. So if you do have questions, please put it in the comments, and we will try to get to as many of them as we can. Next, we are going to see a video that has been put together by the Leon County Sheriff's Office about the great and wonderful things that they are doing in their office. So stay tuned.
The Leon County Sheriff's Office is committed to making our community a safer place to live, work, and play. We strive every day to provide world-class public safety and community services to the people of Leon County while maintaining respect for individual rights and human dignity. In 2017, LCSO launched our All-In effort, a comprehensive plan to unify people, agencies, and organizations to work collaboratively to reduce crime in Leon County. It's a partnership allowing all stakeholders to work towards a common goal. All-In Leon is comprised of 4 components: prevention, reentry, enforcement, and community involvement. As part of the ongoing community building efforts of All-In Leon, the Leon County Sheriff's Office has increased its emphasis on training our staff on the 6 pillars of the 21st century policing. These pillars are interwoven into our 2021 strategic and training plans. A key component of the training is the Heart and Mind of the Guardian class, presented by the internationally recognized training group Blue Courage. The workshop is designed to forge a culture of leadership, character, and service. In addition, LCSO staff members are training on our revised response to resistance policy, adopting and formalizing a standard de-escalation model taught to law enforcement officers during crisis intervention training. Deputies are trained to approach every situation in the calmest manner possible and be prepared to assist community members in crisis with the ability to decompress and reduce any stress or anxiety they may be experiencing. Our newest deputies are engaged in an initiative known as Icebreaker. The core of the initiative is based on our deputies getting out of their cars and meeting the community members to discuss crime and public safety issues from the perspective of the citizen. The deputies are equipped with safety and prevention handouts to use as an icebreaker to start the conversation. LCSO has also revamped utilization of our Spirit platform, connecting citizens with vital resources. Citizens we encounter are linked via the Spirit database to community-based organizations addressing challenges such as mental and behavioral health, mentoring, and job skills. Developing job skills is also a key component of LCSO's reentry program, equipping inmates at the Leon County Detention Facility with tools for success upon reentry into our community. Inmates now have the opportunity to receive certifications in numerous career fields, including culinary, mechanics, construction, lawn care, and entrepreneurial opportunities. Youth involvement is a significant focus of our 2021 goals and objectives. LCSO's newly formed Juvenile Investigation and Intervention Unit seeks to locate and renew bonds with youth not attending school, and then re-engage them in school or workforce job skills. Deputies are interacting with youth in informal situations versus incidents they've responded to via a complaint. Deputies are also fostering relationships and engaging youth at local elementary and middle schools through sports activities such as basketball and football on a weekly basis. We've worked hard to enhance our flow of information to the public as well, utilizing press releases, our new mobile app, our weekly television program on Fox 49, Leon County Today, and also social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Nextdoor. Since 2016, LCSO has increased its Facebook following by 800%, now with more than 46,000 followers, receiving up-to-date information on crime prevention and public safety. LCSO knows the importance of community engagement, and we genuinely want to give back to our community. Our Community Relations Department hosts quarterly food distributions with Farm Share and participates in bunk bed builds with Sleep in Heavenly Peace, providing a warm bed to children in need. In addition, LCSO hosts quarterly community events, reaching residents in all sectors of the county, and hosts fundraisers for numerous community efforts such as the American Cancer Society, the American Heart Association, and the Salvation Army. We are all in.
All right. Thank you, Leon County Sheriff's Office. Y'all busy.
It's all fun.
Okay, good. All right. And then finally, our last video presentation is from the Tallahassee Police Department, and see some of the great things that you all are doing over there, Chief. So stand by.
The Tallahassee Police Department has a distinguished history, serving as the third oldest law enforcement agency in the United States, behind only Philadelphia and Chicago police departments. We pride ourselves on our dedication to protect and serve, while also maintaining our core values of trust, loyalty, and commitment. The world is ever changing, and so is the way law enforcement is perceived. The Tallahassee Police Department is constantly working to bridge the gap with our community. We do this through things like our TEMPO program. TEMPO stands for Tallahassee Engaged in Meaningful Productivity and Opportunity. TEMPO is a public safety, quality of life, economic development outreach initiative to locally disconnected youth. Disconnected youth are from the ages of 16 to 24 and are not in school or employed. It's an opportunity to assist youth in finding gainful employment and transferable skills to make them ready for the workforce. Once they've completed this graduation from the TEMPO program, the Tallahassee Police Department will then hire those graduates to serve as a community service technician for the Tallahassee Police Department. The hope is that after a few years of serving as a community service technician with full pay and benefits, that they can then move into full-time employment as a law enforcement officer. And the final goal of the program is that those graduates would then go back into the neighborhoods in which they grew up and recruit other Tempo graduates to do the same thing. We also have taken a strategic approach to restorative justice. Partnerships with groups like Life Solutions with Kevin Warren, as well as Community Connections and Community First, will help us in this initiative. Restorative justice is a key component to our community because it reduces recidivism and reduces crime eventually. We also have our Citizen Advisory Council. These are opportunities for members of this community to get involved and have a first-hand look at how the police department operates. TPD and the Citizen Advisory Council work together to identify and focus on public safety issues. These councils can make recommendations to the department about how key issues should be addressed within the Tallahassee neighborhoods, bringing the community's perspective to the table. We are very excited to be a part of this discussion and look forward to having conversations that will help bring our community together.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for those presentations, all of them. So I'm going to start off our first round of questions. And, we heard about some of the great things that you all have been doing and some things that you plan to do. But I want to hear from you about what some of the challenges are that you may be facing. So maybe one or two tough challenges your office is currently facing within your organization. Don't everybody speak at once.
Well, I'll jump out there.
Everything is not roses, right?
That's right. That's
okay.
Absolutely true. Let me, first of all, thank the mayor for those comments, and particularly the thing I want to stick a pin in is the fact that we all work together. I want the citizens out there to know that Leon County Sheriff's Office, TPD, I make no bones about it. That's my first family. I learned everything I know about law enforcement right there at Tallahassee Police Department. But let me talk about one of the ongoing problems we have. We are doing a great job, I think, of trying to stand up the mental health piece that the mayor talked about. And part of that mental health problem is a homeless problem. And that's been a daunting issue for us for quite a while. I remember going back to the 80s, we were having significant problems with homeless persons in our community. There's not a day that goes by that I don't receive a call from either a citizen, him or herself, or the chairman of the county commission or another county commissioner about a homeless population. The COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated that problem to the point where the Carney Center is not fully functioning the way it previously did, which means we now have to figure out ways in which we try to address those communities. And one of the things I often realize and talk about to citizens is that many of those homeless persons will go out and commit crimes, sometimes just to get an opportunity to get a bed and a warm meal. And that means they come into our detention facility. So our citizens are paying for the homeless population one way or another. And it's been such a daunting task trying to get a handle on that. I will tell you that I am buoyed up by the fact that many of our social service partners are trying to do everything they can. I will tell you that our faith-based community is very much involved and engaged in trying to come up with solutions in which we can try to address this problem. But the issue of persons with mental health issues, the homeless population go hand in hand. And to the extent that we haven't been able to get our arms around that particular issue in Leon County, bodes some horrific potential problems in our future if we don't really sit down and figure this one out and figure out how we can get this done. But it's a huge problem, Nicole, and we are just not sure exactly how we're going to wrestle that issue down. The homeless population is transient, obviously, and so next week, and it's at this location, Next month, it's in another location. And we're playing, as I like to call it, whack-a-mole, where we're just hitting where they are at the present time, but not really addressing the root issues of the homeless population. So that's something I hope we can get a handle on.
Okay, yeah, that is a big one. We actually have a few comments coming in. Someone asking about funds to adequately deal with the homeless through lobbying the legislators, that sort of thing. So I don't know if that's an option, but something to, I guess, maybe consider. But I want to give the mayor and the chief an opportunity to respond to that question if they so choose.
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to talk about homeless and the mental health crisis issues that we have, but since that's been covered pretty well by the mayor and the sheriff, one of the things that we're continuing to deal with, and this is a national trend, not just here in Tallahassee, but is the increase in violent crime that we've seen, and especially the proliferation of weapons used in those crimes. And I'll go back to one of the things that we've been saying for at least a year, if not more. And that is one of the things that the community can help us to do. And that is, the thing that we continue to say, which is, lock your cars at night and secure your weapons, in your homes, so that those weapons don't end up on the street and then are used in some of these crimes. So, we've taken some dramatic steps to deal with those. I echo what the sheriff said earlier about how great the partnership is between the sheriff's department and the police department. I can tell you in my 30 years, I don't think it's ever been any better than it is right now. And one of those collaborative efforts, there are many, but one of those which has had a tremendous impact on one particular area of violent crime is the task force, which we put together, which also involves the fire department, but the police department, the sheriff's department, FHP, all of us in dealing with these large gatherings, the kind of pop-up gatherings that COVID has created. And this task force has been tremendously successful in mitigating the crowds gathering and then the violence that sometimes follows in those gatherings. But violent crime and the increase of that is certainly one of our utmost concerns right now.
Nicole, it's a great question. And to continue with the theme of what both gentlemen have been talking about, first of all, the positive. I love to remind people all the time how fortunate we are that we have a law enforcement community that works so well together, which is crucial when we're dealing with investigations and the overall plan of keeping the community safe. Not all communities enjoy the type of relationship that we have between the Leon County Sheriff's Office and Tallahassee Police Department. Not every community has a police chief and a sheriff that, gentlemen, I might be stepping out of bounds a little bit here, but I think are truly good friends and have a mutual respect for each other and each other's departments. It is a relationship that I am very thankful for each and every day. And I'm sure we'll get in. I see Chuck Hobbs has got a question about what took place in DC and, what our thoughts are and everything. I go to bed at night very thankful that our law enforcement community does work so well together. However, both issues, violent crime and homelessness, are very difficult issues and they're not simple to solve. I grew up in Tallahassee. Chief Revell grew up in Tallahassee. It's a different city than what we grew up in just by population alone. I mean, let me remind you, 411 municipalities across the state of Florida. The average population of a city is somewhere around 15,000. We have a city population of nearly 200,000, and you include the county population of nearly 300,000. In fact, as a municipality, we are the 7th largest city in the state of Florida. We have big city issues that we have to, that we are trying to address. Now, I will tell you, the sheriff's department and the police department, they actually do a great job if a crime is committed of capturing those that commit those crimes. And that is a very important role. But I also think that we need to change the way how we approach violent crime in our community. Because if we all sit back and say it's McNeil and Revell's responsibility to stop all violent crime, then we are setting ourselves up for failure. As a community and as a society, we all have a role to play to try to steer individuals that might be heading down the path of committing violent crimes into other directions, whether it's mentorships, whether it's providing opportunities, helping them out with jobs, helping them out with housing, helping them out with mental health services, or whatever the help is. We all have a role to play. That's why conversations like tonight are so important. Both gentlemen are correct. We have a homeless issue that we have to continuously address. Now, let me first say, we have got incredible men and women and incredible service providers, nonprofits, the faith-based community, private companies that have truly stepped up to the plate. They're working very hard, day in and day out, around the clock, to assist those that are experiencing homelessness in our community. But we have to continue as a society to address these issues, come up with new ideas, new game plans, or else, as the sheriff said, we're going to have a serious problem in the near future that is going to be bigger than life. And so it's important for us to really keep this as a priority, keep it in front of us, and continue to work to do the best job that we possibly can.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, Derrick.
Yeah, so my question is geared towards community policing. So regarding the phrase, you can't police from a bubble, what does that phrase mean to you? Anybody who's welcome to respond.
I'll jump in first this time. Policing in a bubble, it kind of goes back to what we've been saying all along in relation to relationships. Everything we do is about relationships, and we can't continue to police the way we've always policed. We have to. Community policing in its inception was about getting out and being in the community, talking to the people in the community and finding out what the people in the community view as the problems for that community. Because I can say all day long, I think that this community is dealing with this issue, and then go in and deal with that. But if that's not the issue that community is concerned about, then I'm not being effective in my policing there. So it's getting outside that bubble means that we get out of our car, that we go and we have conversations. We walk down the street, we just talk to people, we play games with kids, we sit on porches, with people and talk. We go in businesses and we have conversations, meaningful conversations. It means getting out and understanding what's going on in any given community, and then taking our resources and our concepts of policing and using those to effectively address those issues which that community sees as a problem. I will tell you that, I was one of the first cop squads in Tallahassee when then Chief McNeil was at the Tallahassee Police Department. And that was a big push of his. And I've always believed in that concept from the very beginning, and saw how effective community policing, when it's done right, can be for a community as a whole. So, that getting out of our bubble, I kind of liken that bubble to our cars a lot of times. And, it means getting outside of that, but it also means getting outside of our comfort zone, and getting involved and engaged with people that might not look like us or talk like us, or live in the same area that we live in, and finding out that we are all part of humanity. We are all human beings, and we all have commonalities, and if we will just focus on those, I think we will find that we have so much more in common than we do differences. And that's truly where, that community policing and the community involvement in policing truly takes off and goes to a whole new level.
Yeah, I agree, Chief. Anyone else want to respond to that as it relates to community policing, or you can't police from home?
I'll talk about it just a little bit, Derrick. I won't do a whole lot, but I agree with everything that Chief Revell said. But there's a fundamental aspect of that sometimes gets lost in the translation. Sir Robert Peel said that the citizens are the police and the police are the citizens. And that is basically community policing. The police are the citizens, and the citizens are the police. When we talk about community policing, we look at it in one direction. That is, policing needs to come out and engage in the public. That's great, and we must do that, and we continue to do that. But there's another aspect of that. That's the onus of all of us as citizens. That is to know exactly what's your police department, your sheriff's office doing. I'm always surprised, but I'm not now, since I've been asking this question for over 20 years. When I'm in public arenas, I ask a citizen, how many of you have read the use of force policy when I was police chief of the Tallahassee Police Department? And nobody raised their hand. As sheriff, I continue to ask the question when I go out, how many of you have read the use of force policy of the sheriff's office? I got somebody who stumped me one day, and there was one person who raised their hand and said, I did online. The citizens are the police, and the police are the citizens. We've all got to see this as all of us working together. It's not that police department by itself. It's not that sheriff's office. And that's why we coined this phrase all in, to put right before all of us that we all have a responsibility of taking care of our community. This is about all of us, every one of us, owning the problems that we have. The problem we have of homeless is not a police problem. It's a community problem. It's the city of Tallahassee, Leon County problem. It's not the mayor's problem. It's all of our problem, and it's all of our responsibility to get in. And somebody was asking, are you going to do any legislation about that? Are you going to look at legislation to deal with the homeless issues? Well, we the citizens should be trying to go forward and say, let's put some legislation together. Let's figure out how we do this. All of us combined working together. And that's what that bubble is. Let's get outside of that bubble. Let us all work towards making this place a great place to live, work, and play.
Awesome.
And if I can jump in with a couple final comments as well, Derrick, I agree 100% with what the chief and what the sheriff said. And what I would like to propose to the community is a charge. So just out of curiosity, for everyone that is watching and participating tonight, can you raise your hand? This is hypothetical. You don't have to actually do it, but could you actually raise your hand and tell us who are the police officers that patrol your neighborhood on a regular basis? Who are the sheriff deputies that patrol your neighborhood that you're in their quadrant on a regular basis? Most people probably could not. And so I am asking all citizens, get involved. Get to know the great men and women of the Leon County Sheriff's Office and the police department that day in and day out are actually in your neighborhoods. You know, right now with COVID, it's a little difficult, obviously, but when we kind of pull out of this and start getting back together in backyards and everything, if you're having a cookout, here's a challenge. Reach out to the police department, sheriff's department, and say, hey, we're going to have a backyard cookout with some neighbors. Whoever's on duty that night, would love you to have to stop by and just say hi, introduce yourself. It's a great way to meet your neighbors. When people call with non-emergency issues dealing with law enforcement, and they call me directly, the first question I always ask is, have you met your officers? Have you met your deputies? Call the police department and you will be so surprised at how willing the officers and deputies are to come out, introduce themselves, and get to know you. We can talk about community policing from a one-sided viewpoint as much as we want. We expect the police to be out walking the beat. We expect the police to be in our neighborhoods. But I also think that we have a responsibility to get to know the great men and women that work in law enforcement, that work every day to keep us safe. So I challenge everybody to take the extra step and really get to know your officers and get to know your deputies.
Thank you so much. So we are, I like that challenge, and I also like the police are citizens and citizens are the police, which all just boils down to we're all human beings living in this community. All right, so we're going to take a question from the audience. The first question that popped up was from Chuck Hobbs, and he wants to know, after last month's right-wing insurrection at the Capitol complex in Washington, D.C., how concerned are each of you about similar violent or potential volatile protests happening here in Tallahassee?
Well, go ahead, Sheriff.
I'll jump on that. And thank Brother Hobbs for the question. I follow him on Facebook every once in a while. I will tell you that we're always concerned. In law enforcement, we have an adage that says, we have to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. I've said that my entire career. That's the way I learned to do law enforcement. But we're not afraid. There's a difference between being ready in the event something occurs and being afraid. We think that we have done the due diligence in our community, where we build that trust across all the various ethnic and racial lines. But we also know that there's a element out there that will, in fact, try to take advantage of that. So we don't sleep on that issue. We make sure that we're doing what we call our intelligence. We have something called the Real-Time Crime Center, where we try to data mine and go into those websites and on those social media pages and watch and see exactly what's going on. But I will assure you of this, Brother Hobbs, that the law enforcement in this community will not be caught off guard like they were in D.C. Fact of the matter is, I'm embarrassed by the fact that law enforcement failed at that level, and it's that magnitude. And I assure you that that failure is not likely. I can't ever say won't happen, but is not likely to happen here in Leon County. But as it relates to those groups out there, they're here, and we keep an eye on them. And we try to make sure that we stay one step ahead to the extent that we can.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else want to speak to that?
Well, I'll jump in and say, and let me remind you, Nicole and Derrick, I do not have any law enforcement background or training. I'm an elected layperson. Are we concerned? Sure, I'm concerned. Yeah, we live in a new day and a new time. Of course, I'm concerned. But at the same time, I'm also very confident in our law enforcement community to be able to respond properly. And I could not be more proud of the preparation that went into place. Look, we all saw on the national news, the national memo that came out of the FBI that all the state capitals across the country could possibly be soft targets. And we all saw when the individual was arrested Friday leading up to inauguration in Tallahassee. And we all read in the news about some of the thoughts that individual had. We also live in a very unique town where we've got a lot of law enforcement presence. We have the sheriff's office, we have the police department. We also have the police departments at Florida State and FAMU. We have, the Capitol Police, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, Highway Patrol. We have federal presence here as well. And it goes back to my original comments that we are blessed to live in a community where all different levels and all different agencies work so very well together in a coordinated response. And the preparation that went into being prepared in Tallahassee a couple of weeks ago is a prime example of all different levels working extremely well together. So am I concerned? Of course. I agree with the sheriff. Yes, we're concerned. Am I confident in our ability to respond? Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Well, I will start our second round of questions. 2020, we saw a lot of social unrest due to systemic racism, due to some police brutality that took place. And so I want to present to you a question around that. I want to know how you all are eliminating or decreasing the perception and reality of systemic racism in your organizations.
Well, I can talk about that, I guess. We have understood that in some cases it's not necessarily whether you have an issue or not. It's really the perception of there being an issue in the sheriff's office or police department here locally based on what we see on the national at the national level, and that's just a reality. So we have to make sure that the optics of what we do are consistent with the efforts that we're making. And to that end, the efforts that we're making, we are focused like a laser on what impacts implicit bias that we all have can perhaps create in our community. And that's why we are ensuring that every one of the Leon County Sheriff's Office deputies are going through implicit bias training. We have embraced the Obama-led 21st century policing concepts and the pillars, the 6 pillars, and we've added a seventh one to that, and that's basically dealing with our detention facility. But one, we have to make sure that on the hiring end, on the front end, that we do a better job of screening the applicants that come to us. One of the things that we are advocating, working on, is trying to, with a wellness component that makes up the Leon County Sheriff's Office delivery system, to set up psychological evaluations that happen on a periodic basis throughout your career. We do understand that trauma impacts everyone when you go through a traumatic event, and our deputies and police officers go through several traumatic events during their career, and it is our responsibility to make sure that when they go through those, that we're taking care of them and making sure that there's no residual things that happen where they may have flashbacks and that sort of thing as they continue to work in law enforcement. Not only that, but we talked about community policing. We talked about, we haven't talked about use of deadly force. We're talking about how we go about de-escalation. We've changed the wording in our policy manuals to fit exactly what the deputies are asked to do. We're never asked to use force, and so we're changing that language because we go out there and we try to deal with resistance. And some of the language that we have in our old policy did not correctly convey exactly what the deputies' jobs were as they went out there. So we're doing a lot of proactive front end stuff, some proactive on the back end, and we're doing some proactive hiring and making sure we get the right people here. One of the things we also, and I'll say this the last thing, we also are trying our double best to be a representative sheriff's office to make sure that we look like, in terms of our ethnicity, our backgrounds, our race, our gender, that we look like the community we police. And that, we believe, all those things we believe combined allows us to deal more effectively with the belief and the distrust that some communities have with their law enforcement agencies.
Right, thank you.
Yeah. I'll jump in also, if that's all right. A lot of the same things that the sheriff said, we do at the police department as well. We do the implicit bias training. I believe that's so important. We also do fair and impartial policing training, because it's critically important for our officers to understand those concepts and how they affect them in their daily application of law. Those things are incredibly important. De-escalation, which the sheriff mentioned, is so incredibly important, especially in this day and time. And our policies have been written to specifically not only encourage it but demand it. And I will tell you, I preach this from the top down at the Tallahassee Police Department. That we have to maintain or improve the relationship with our community, and the respect and the integrity in which our officers carry themselves each and every day play a tremendous part in that. And we have to be transparent. That's why we took our policies and we turned them outward facing so that anybody can go online at any time and read any of our policies. And you will see that those are national leader policies, and many of the things that came out across the country requesting police departments to do these things, or these 8 things, or these 6 things. The Tallahassee Police Department already does those things. So we were very proud to get that out and to share that with our community. But I also preach when I talk to every single new person that I hire, about a term. It was a police chief. Her name is Danielle Outlaw, who did a tremendous piece on this. But she talks about humanity and our authority, and just and what that means, and the fact that every single person we deal with has to be treated as a human being. Every single person that we deal with, deserves to be treated like we would want the most precious person in our life treated. And I tell them, I challenge those officers to be that officer that you would want to respond to your family member. And that's the only way we're going to change that perception. I can tell you that I stand by and I support and I believe with all of my heart that the men and women of the Tallahassee Police Department, and I would include the Leon County Sheriff's Department as too, are the best in the country. They love this community and they serve it with all their heart. Are we human? Certainly we are. And we're all going to make mistakes. But I say that in the conversation about humanity and our authority, many of the people that we are dealing with because a series of bad choices have gotten them to that location. And bad choices is something we can all relate to. We've all made bad choices in our lives. So bad choices do not necessarily make us bad people. And we've got to keep that in mind. And we've got to understand when we go to deal with people, the biases that we bring into that. And so we will continue at the Tallahassee Police Department to educate our officers on this and making sure they're understanding. But we've also got to make sure that the application of that training is happening on the street.
All right. Thank you, Chief. Derrick, did you want to try to get one more of your questions in? Otherwise, I'll go straight to the audience.
Sure. Well, this one deals with somewhat of the humanity aspect. Has the Tony McDade officer-involved shooting changed or altered in any way the way that you operate your departments?
I'll jump in again. I think that, all the events that happened across the country and right here in our community brought to light many of the issues that we've been talking about tonight. One of those is mental illness and challenges, people in crisis and how we respond to that. And are there ways that our community can come in and help us deal with those situations maybe much earlier, so that we don't get to the situation where law enforcement is even needed, and to understand how better to deal with those situations. So I think many of those situations that happened across the country have opened our eyes to the fact that we've got to continue these conversations. We've got to make sure that we are doing everything we can do, that we are continuing to partner with all the social services that are available in our community. And I think we are honed in and we are on the right track with our team's approach. And I think this community is going to see the tremendous impact that group is going to have, not only for the community, but how law enforcement interacts with the community as well.
All right. Thank you. All right. This will be our last question just because of the interest of time. Shauna Smith wanted to get some information about juvenile programs. And I'd like it not only to be addressed, I know she says the Leon County Sheriff's Office, but also by you, Chief, as it relates to. So, Sheriff?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question too. We have engaged in the youth issues in our community, have been at the forefront of much of what we're trying to do with our All In initiative. We are trying to engage. We realize that, for example, the 304 zip code is perhaps the most impoverished zip code in Leon County. And we understand that the youth that come from those communities have several challenges. So we've engaged with our school system, working with Superintendent Rocky Hanna, and trying to make sure that when we have kids who come from domestic violence situations, that if we go to those homes and a child is involved in that, we try to have some interventions where not only do we then work to try to address the family problems and getting the social service organizations there, We also try to look at what are the traumatic events that happen with that child. So we are working with a number of social service organizations in that regard. We also just partnered with TCC, and we are working, trying to create, working with the chamber, the Tallahassee Chamber, and we have an initiative we call 1,000 Jobs. The youth that we become aware of, they're engaged in, and family members may have engaged in some type of crime that comes to our attention. We are trying to figure out a way in which we connect those kids to 1,000 Jobs. We've got some conversations going up right now. Career Source is one of the partners that we've got for that initiative. We have, perhaps you know, we have an initiative that's sort of been put on hold with COVID called Back on Track. We have another initiative called Worship with Me, where we've asked a number of churches in our community to partner with us with kids we identify. And we believe that two contacts, two consistent back-to-back contacts with a faith-based organization with these kids at the right age. Some of the statistics have shown us that that's a way to turn those lives around. I also send out this card. I mail this card out to families who we come in contact with, who have kids who are having problems. And this card basically says it's a youth violence reduction program. I actually mail a letter out to the family and ask if that family, the mom or dad who's there, what help do you need? And we asked them to send this letter back. They turn it on the back. There's a postage card that comes right back to us with their information. And then we go out and try to assist social service organizations with identifying those family needs and the children's needs and match those up. And we're prepared to pay for those kind of interactions through our budget. The last thing I'll say is that we work closely with the 100 Black Men. Again, that's been put on a hiatus with COVID, but we also go to our schools and try to read kids at the various levels. And we try to create those buddy systems with our deputies and with other citizens in our community so that we can try to have interventions with our kids at every opportunity. Those are just a few, and my staff will probably tell you that I spend a great deal of my time and their time trying to address the youth problems and issues of our community. Not arresting kids. We want to direct kids away from our detention facility and into gainful employment and into educational opportunities. And that's some of the things. And we even do that in our detention facility. We have, for the first time, I think ever, we've had people graduate from our detention facility, youth, graduate with our GED, through our GED program. So we're really proud of what we're trying to do with the youth of our community.
Wow, that's quite commendable. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I also get very excited when we start talking about the youth in our community and the things we do. One of the things we created was the Youth Citizen Advisory Council. There's 60 youth from our community that participate in that, and they've already been very active doing projects. And the interaction that we have with them, and the ability for them to bring concerns of that age group to the police department and look at how we do things and work with them and understand the concerns that they have. But I will tell you, this group has been just amazing in their desire to get out and to help the community. And that's been a great example and just a huge success. We also have, many different programs. We have our PAL League, which just has been doing tremendous work for, so many years and connected with so many youth through sports. We have our TAC Students, which is a leadership program, which brings youth in and teaches them leadership skills and team building skills. One of my initiatives is to try to get back our officers back into the elementary schools, like a DARE type initiative. And that's something we're working towards as well. We do bike rodeos and we have a cadet program. And like the sheriff said, my staff will probably get on to me because I'm probably missing half the things we do for youth. But like the video talked about early on, I can't go too far here without talking about, the Tempo program and the partnership that we have with them, and the Tempo to police officer program that we've initiated. And we just got our first Tempo graduate that is now in FTO and actually in cars answering calls for service. And we couldn't be more proud of him and the success that he's shown in being the first Tempo graduate to actually do that. The partnerships that the sheriff talked about with all the at-risk youth and the money that we help put into those programs to get them the help that they need is all part of what we do, because we all believe, that we've got to invest in our youth and we've got to build those relationships early if we're truly going to have any kind of impact on relationships. And like this whole conversation is about truly bridging the gap between our community and law enforcement.
Right. Thank you, Revell. I appreciate that. Again, you all are doing work as well. So we're going to wrap up. But before we do, I want to give you gentlemen an opportunity to just share what you believe might be a solutions as relates to what the community can do to help bridge the gap and help reduce, well, not reduce crime specifically, but help with what each of your organizations do. What do you think easily the community citizens could do to help you all out with that? As your closing remark.
Yeah, I think I heard you, Nicole. On my end, it's kind of breaking up. I'm not sure if that's my mic or what. But let me. I'm getting a lot of feedback here.
I think we're good now. Go ahead.
All right. First of all, let me thank you all for putting on this forum to give us an opportunity to talk about the things that our deputies and officers are doing. And obviously, anytime I get a chance to be on a panel with the mayor, I'm always delighted to do that. But Nicole, we have a lot that we've got to do. First and foremost, I want to tell you that our first responsibility is safety. I mean, I can have all the programs and stuff that we've got going on, but at the end of the day, we're not making Tallahassee, Leon County any safer, then it's all for naught. And I am proud to say that we are continuously driving the crime down, and that's the product of the joint efforts by Leon County Sheriff's Office and the Tallahassee Police Department. What I would say to our citizens out there is to continue to do what I talked about before. Don't sit on the sidelines. This requires all of us engaged and working every day. I mean, unfortunately, everybody doesn't see it quite the way I do. I believe that where I'm not doing law enforcement, I said often I'd probably be in the ministry, and that means that every day I'm getting up trying to figure out how I can serve my fellow man, how I can make our community a better place to live for all of our children and next generation of children. And I hope that we can convey that message to every one of our citizens, everybody in Leon County. Let's, I was in Quincy and we were able to do some things on a small scale. And I said, if we can just scale that up in Tallahassee, we can do some great things. We've got the resources here to do it. It's just a matter of all of us pitching in and working together. And if I can leave you one thing, and that is, let's all work together to make Tallahassee, Leon County the safest place, the most prosperous place for any of us to live, and be the model not only for the state of Florida, but for the entire United States. We can do that. We can do that here in Tallahassee, Leon County.
Right.
Yeah, I would echo that, and also just with the biggest thing is just get involved. Figure out where it is that you can get involved. Whether that's neighborhood associations, neighborhood watches. If you don't have one, create one. Our community relationship is constantly out meeting and starting new community groups that we interact with on a daily basis. I want to give a huge shout out to Pastor Burgers. I saw him on who's the chair of the Citizen Advisory Council. A group again of people that are coming together to bridge the gap and try to see what we can do to help the community and the community to help the police department to work together. However that is, beautification efforts, within your community, town hall meetings, Whatever it is that you can do to get out, get involved with the police department. We have meetings, and then the sheriff says the same thing. We have meetings all the time, and go and but that involvement in the neighborhood associations and seeing what the city of Tallahassee has done, enjoying that effort to find different neighborhoods and some of the great things that are going on there, the reduction in crime and camera systems, and then just again, it shows on a small scale, like the sheriff said.
All right. I think we may have lost Chief Revell. Okay, he had a lot of feedback. Hopefully, y'all were able to read his lips. All right. Oh, here he is. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, unmute your mic.
Chief, you got to unmute, Chief.
Okay. Sorry, not sure where that froze up, but
There we go.
did y'all get any of that? I'm telling you, it was great.
We might need a rewind, Chief.
That's No, I mean, in a nutshell, just get involved. Whether that's your neighborhood associations, town hall meetings, whatever it is, get involved. And join us in this effort. Like the sheriff talked about, safety is our biggest issue, but I'm also very, very concerned about the feeling of safety. Do our citizens feel safe? Do they feel comfortable getting out and walking in their neighborhoods? And I want that for every single citizen of Tallahassee and Leon County.
All right. Thank you. Mayor Dailey.
Derrick, Nicole, thanks again for hosting. Certainly do appreciate it. It's been great. And I want to thank everybody that's been participating. I certainly hope, Derrick and Nicole, one of you got the screenshot of the frozen face of Chief Revell. That was great, Chief. It really was. But I want to join in as well. And again, thank personally Chief Revell and Sheriff McNeil for the fine job that y'all are doing. You got a big challenge. I understand that, but the men and women of the police department and sheriff's department are committed to our community, and I'm very grateful and very lucky to be able to work with each of you every day as the mayor of Tallahassee. We live in a great community, no doubt about it. We would not participate in these forums if we did not care about our community and truly want to do better and move the community forward. So I want to join my voice along with the sheriff and with the police chiefs. Get involved. Get involved with your city. Get involved with your county. Everyone has something to offer. Everyone has a role to play. And that is how together we truly move the community forward.
Absolutely. So first I have to thank each of our panelists, Mayor Dailey, Chief Revell, Sheriff McNeil, as well as our viewers. You all had a lot of great comments and questions. We will go back and try to address those. So please stay engaged, get involved. This has been encouraged throughout this evening, throughout this broadcast. I think the takeaway tonight was that the police are the what was it? The police are the citizens and the citizens are the police. I think that's it for me. I don't know. What about you, Derrick?
Yes, and I mean, very briefly, I just want to acknowledge our condolences to the family of Pastor Ray Brown. It's just a great man was laid to rest today, so our condolences go to his family. Very thankful for the mayor, the chief, for the sheriff, for making yourselves available for the community. I really believe in you all as leaders of this community, and I'm willing to, the Tallahassee Barristers is willing to support each of your administrations in any way that we can. So again, thank you, and thank you to the community for engaging us tonight.
Yes.
Well, thank you all.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
And Nicole, that was Sir Robert Peel that made that. Don't give me credit for that now.
Okay. All right. Giving credit where it's due. Well, again, much appreciation and gratitude for this conversation. Let's keep the conversation going and let's be engaged. Y'all have a very good night.
Have a great night.
Thank you. Good night, you all.
Thank you all.